Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into what might just be the single most influential letter ever written. Now, it's not from a king or a general, but it's a document that, for nearly 2,000 years, has shaped empires, sparked revolutions, and completely changed countless lives. We are talking about Paul's epistle to the Romans.
I mean, think about it for a second. When you think of powerful documents, your mind probably jumps to things like constitutions, right? Or maybe major scientific breakthroughs. But what if the most impactful text of all was just a letter?
Well, a lot of scholars and thinkers would argue it's this one. A letter written by a man named Paul, sent to this small, fledgling community right in the heart of the Roman Empire. And here's the wild part. He was writing to a city he had never even been to.
So, to really get why this letter hit with such force, we've got to understand who wrote it and, what he was trying to do. This wasn't just some casual, hey, how are you note. This was Paul laying out his entire life's work, the absolute core of everything he believed.
He kicks things off by calling himself a servant of Jesus Christ and gets right to it. He's been wanting to visit Rome for years. And why? Because the faith of this little community was already famous. He says it was being talked about throughout the whole world. So you can think of this letter as his grand introduction, his way of connecting before he could actually get there in person.
And wow, he does not hold back. Almost immediately, he delivers what is basically the thesis statement for the entire letter. He says the gospel, the good news, is God's power for salvation. And then comes the really revolutionary part. It's for everyone who believes. This idea just shatters the biggest social barrier of his day, the one between Jews and non-Jews, who he calls the Greek.
All right, let's get into the argument itself, because Paul builds his case like a master lawyer. But here's the thing, he doesn't start with the good news. No, he starts by diagnosing a problem that he believes every single person shares, no matter who you are or where you come from.
Paul's strategy here is just brilliant. He basically puts two groups of people on trial. First, the non-Jews, the Gentiles. He says, look, you can see evidence of God everywhere in creation, so you've got no excuse. But then he turns to his own people, the Jews, who have God's specific laws. And he hits them with this pointed question that's basically asking, you teach everyone else the rules, but do you even follow them yourselves? See, his point is that just having the rule book doesn't make you better. It just puts a spotlight on when you break the rules.
And after he's taken on both groups, he brings it all home with this incredibly famous, sweeping verdict. It doesn't matter what your heritage is. It doesn't matter what your background is. The playing field, he says, is completely level because, as he puts it, all have sinned and come short of the glory of God.
So once he's established this universal problem for all humanity, Paul pivots to his absolutely radical solution. And this right here is the heart of the letter, an idea so potent it would echo through the centuries and even help ignite the Protestant Reformation. Now, to get his solution, you have to understand this one crucial word, justification. Paul uses it like a legal term. It's not about you working really hard to become a good person. No, it's about a judge, God, declaring you not guilty, righteous, as a completely free gift. The only thing you have to do is accept it through faith.
And to prove this isn't some brand new idea he just came up with, Paul pulls out his trump card, Abraham, the founding father of the entire Jewish faith. He points back to the ancient scriptures and says, look, Abraham was considered righteous not because of something he did, but because he believed God's promise. His faith was literally counted to him as righteousness.
And then comes the killer detail. Paul points out that all of this happened before Abraham received the sign of circumcision. Now, why is that so important? Because, in Paul's view, it means Abraham is the father of faith for everyone who believes, whether they're Jewish or not. It proves to Paul that faith has always come first. So this new status, this justification, kicks off a kind of chain reaction. It all starts with peace with God, but it doesn't stop there. Paul argues that even our struggles, our tribulations, get a totally new purpose. They build patience, which then develops our character, which in turn creates this incredibly powerful hope. A hope, he says, that will never let you down. It's a complete reframing of hardship. Okay, so that is some pretty deep, heavy theology. But what does it actually, look like? How does this huge idea of justification change the way you live your life on a normal Tuesday afternoon?
while Paul spends the rest of the letter answering that exact question. In chapter 8, Paul lays out these two fundamental paths. There's being carnally minded, which is all about the self, and he says that ultimately leads to death and being at odds with God. But the other path is being spiritually minded, which leads to life and peace. The whole relationship changes from one of fear to one of adoption, where you can call God Abba, which is this intimate Aramaic word, kind of like saying dad.
And believe me, this isn't just some abstract theory. In chapter 12, the ideas get incredibly practical and, frankly, radical. He's not just talking about having inner peace. He's giving direct commands like, bless those who persecute you. And maybe the most stunning command of all, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. This is what justification looks like when it hits the streets. It's a direct call to actively overcome evil with good.
So after all that incredibly dense, powerful theology, the letter ends on this surprisingly personal note. It's like Paul is reminding all of us that this isn't just some theological essay. It's a real message sent to real people that he actually knew and cared about.
The final chapter is pretty much a long list of personal shout-outs, and it gives us this amazing, intimate snapshot of the community in Rome. He mentions Phoebe, the woman who probably delivered this very letter. He greets Priscilla and Aquila, this power couple who worked alongside him. He even gives a shout-out to a woman, Junia, who he calls outstanding among the apostles. And then in this fascinating little twist at the end, the guy who is physically writing all of this down adds his own greeting. I, Tertius, who wrote this letter, greet you. It's just a beautiful reminder of the very real, very human network behind these massive ideas.
And so that's where we land. The dense, powerful arguments in this letter about grace, about law, about faith, they've just echoed through history, inspiring everyone from Augustine to Martin Luther. It forces us, even now, to grapple with its claims, leaving us all with the question, how does a nearly 2,000-year-old letter continue to challenge our own modern ideas of what justice, identity, and being human are all about?